morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live as every Wednesday. I'm Andrea Gomez. Orlando Sanchez is in a special assignment. And today, our guest is Ben Mostyn. He is a candidate for Texas House of Representative District 117. 117 district, it contains part of western San Antonio. Welcome to TLC Live, Ben. Nice to see you
Thank you.
again. It's been a week that since we met and Leadership Latino.
Thank you. It's great seeing you again, and thank you for having me on the show.
Of course. So I want to start with you telling us your background. We want to get to know you better. We met last week when you attended the class of Leadership Latino, and I want to also your feedback, but that's gonna be later on in the program. But we want to get to know you first.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I am so blessed. I have had such a wonderful life, full of struggles, but full of reward as well. We moved to Texas when I was a kid, and so I grew up in Texas. In fact, it was the day the Challenger blew up, January 28th, 1986. It was a really terrible day. And we moved to Southeast Austin, and I lived in the barrio. It was a really rough neighborhood at that time. But I grew up in Texas, and I was brought up with Southern, with Texas values, with family values, very much in church. Church was my life. That was everything that I did. In fact, I grew up almost Amish, and the Amish community used to visit our church because of the similarities. We were taught to be self-sufficient and how to, till the land, how to raise animals, and how to do woodworking and so many other things that are necessary to be self-sufficient. I was homeschooled. In fact, I was homeschooled all the way until the 10th grade. And then I went to public school. By this time, my parents were going to a different type of church. So again, church was very much a part of my life and the building of my character. And so I went to public school and did very well. In fact, I was in the first program, or one of the first programs in the nation, in which kids went to high school and to college simultaneously. And it was a concept. The concept was proven. It was sponsored by Advanced Micro Devices. I got to work at Advanced Micro Devices as an assistant engineer, and I studied electrical engineering. And I went to high school, like I said, had honors classes. I also was the youngest employee in the MCI telecommunications company. Now, this is back in the day, if you remember, when we had a local carrier and a long distance carrier, and so you had AT&T, MCI, and Sprint.
Well,
And
yeah.
those were the three providers. And so I did telemarketing and I did sales. And in fact, they had opened the door up for 16 and older. The program was a disaster. They only opened it for 3 months, and I just so happened to come through that window. But I wasn't a disaster. In fact, I got promoted. I had 30 subordinates. I became a trainer for sales. And so I was working full time, going to college, going to high school, and and then I just felt a calling to serve my country, and I joined the United States Army, and I had aspirations, or at least a thought at that time, to work for the FBI or the CIA. So I went into military intelligence, and I was a paratrooper, and I did really, really well in the Army. I was Soldier of the Year 2 years in a row. I proved a concept that broke all the records in my field at that time, and then I broke those records again 7 consecutive times. The Army couldn't give me exactly what I wanted, and meanwhile, because I've always done many things all at the same time, and so the Army couldn't give me exactly the desk that I wanted in the world, even though they offered me the sun and the moon and the stars. Uh, and I had been scouted for modeling. And so I went, and the next thing you know it, I was modeling. And I'm in New York City, and I'm doing a fashion show, and I get approached. Somebody says, "You're perfect for the lead in my play. Have you ever thought about being an actor?" And I'm like, I'm in the neighborhood. Why not? So next thing you know it, I was studying and doing film and television and theater and a little bit of everything. I started going back into the corporate world. And I had a dislike for the entertainment industry. It was, this was before hashtag Me Too was a known thing. It's a real topic, right?
Yeah.
And so I left that. I felt that my calling and my purpose was to serve, and so I went back into defense. Not in the army. I worked for various organizations, and I worked in defense. I taught for the Department of Defense for many years. I wound up when I was teaching. And by the way, I did undergrad and grad after that as well. I worked full time at night, and I went to the junior college and the university simultaneously, and graduated summa cum laude, top of my class. And during that time, I also ran as a writing candidate for sheriff. The sheriff was killed in a car accident, and there was an opening, and I said, "You need somebody? I'll help you out." So, anyways, it's been quite an extraordinary life. Later, I would spend many years downrange. I would come back to the States, and I would, always looking to get back to Texas, to my home state. And finally, I was able to. And so I worked for the Department of Defense here in Texas. And then he picked up another side hustle of selling real estate, which became a full-time job. And there's so much more to this story, but that gives you a little bit of the snapshot of so
Well,
many different
absolutely.
things that
You've been
I've
doing
done.
a little bit of everything, and
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sure the experience in marketing and telemarketing and sales, it will help you now in your campaign, because at the end of the day, you need to sell yourself, and everything in life needs sales.
That's
So
right.
everything that you do in life, and now you're doing you're realtor, and you've been doing a lot of things that it requires to do marketing and sales, and now you promoting yourself as a candidate. So after this extensive career and been doing a little bit of everything, what did make you think that you need to run for office and give back to your community? Because you already served the country, you've been working in different areas, always hustling, but now you want to run for office. Uh, you don't have political background, political experience, you don't have family in politics, I'm assuming. So why you decide to get into politics at this time?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I was involved a little bit in politics when I taught for the Department of Defense. Like I said, the sheriff had died. One of the things to note during that time, there was an escalation of violence. This is in southeast Arizona. There was 82 miles of shared border with Mexico. And there was an escalation of violence in which one of our folks in the Border Patrol was killed. Some, Mexican civilians were killed. There is a rising violence, and at that time, I was running for for sheriff, and I thought, well, I'm in my life, I have always had that when you see a need or when you see something that needs to be done, I'm a problem solver. And so I just stepped up to the plate. I went over to the Mexican side and sat down with the mayor, the city council, all of the staff, and I said, "What do you need?" Right? And they were just blown away because no politician or wannabe politician had ever done something like that before. And I took a different approach because I said, this border that we share, there is a lot of commerce, there's a lot of back and forth, there is so much that we have to lose, and we have got to get a hold of the security of our border and ensure the economic stability of our region. And so I got that conversation started, and then I went over to the consulate, and he hooked me up with the other border mayor. Next thing you know it, I had brought together all the mayors of northern Sonora, Mexico, and of southeast Arizona, the county there, Cochise County, to talk about security, immigration, and economic development. And because we got that relationship going, and no one had ever thought about doing that. In fact, a year later, We had representatives from Congress, from the State Department, from the Mexican Foreign Ministry of Defense, or excuse me, their State Department, right? Foreign Ministry of Affairs, um, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Anyways, so skipping forward to time now. Why am I running for office now? There is a need for leadership, on the west side of San Antonio in a district that is unrepresented, in a district that has a representative that barely shows up to work, that has not pushed any significant legislation, and who hasn't fought for us. And when 2022 and the red wave that was supposed to happen didn't happen, I was fed up with the political rife, fed up with everyone pointing fingers saying, oh, it's not my fault, or I'm hamstrung by the Democrats or by whatever interests are out there. And I just had enough of that. And so when, we need leaders, somebody that steps up and makes that happen. And so that's why I said, okay, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to use the experience that I have, the knowledge that I have. My undergrad and grad are in political science, and so I'm very familiar with problem solving, and spent so much time in defense and working those border issues. The list goes on. I said, you know what? I can do this, and I'm going to put myself forward to represent the city of San Antonio here on the west side.
So two things that get my attention. You have different issues, but two of them is, of course, border security. We're living in Texas. We're seeing it firsthand, especially people in the border, especially you guys in San Antonio are seeing the impact of the non-security border, because we don't have any security border anymore. We don't feel secure anymore. We're paying
No.
the taxpayer, we're paying for everything. It's come out of our money, and it's affecting of us in all different levels. And the other thing is education. So you being homeschooled from elementary till 10th grade, and then just the last 2 years going to public schools. Back in your time, which you're very young, but back in your time is a different time that we're living these days in public education anyway. So tell me, how do you want to address the issue of public education and what we're seeing these days coming from your background? How are you gonna put in place your experience and the time that you were living in not only homeschooling, but the time that you live only 2 years in public school, and what we're doing right now, what we're living these days? Look at HISD. I mean, look at other school districts that we're having in Texas. It's a big issue.
Yes, ma'am. Let me just touch very briefly on the border. We have got to protect our border. That has to be sealed. The Constitution of the United States and of Texas says repel. It does not say catch and release. It doesn't say ship to Martha's Vineyard. It says repel. And as a soldier, I can tell you that when someone approached our border, there's a series of things that happened that ensured no one came over that border. Now, I'm not suggesting that we be so aggressive, but people have to understand that you are breaking the law. And it is affecting us not only in our cities, the amount of crime, our homelessness going up, but even being on a plane. For example, I went to Europe here recently, and as I left San Antonio, there's migrants all over the airport. There's migrants lined up. They're getting wristbands, and they're shipping out, these non-governmental agencies are shipping them to wherever they're going. And I had the pleasure of sitting next to one on the plane. Now, this is a jam-packed plane, and we all know that we like to travel, and these planes are so packed and the prices are so high. Everything about the border affects our daily lives, and we have got to get that under control. Switching to education. My education and my foundation is a traditional and conservative foundation. And tradition and conservative values are imperative. These are American values, these are Texas values, and these are Hispanic values. These values the reason why a foundation is so important is because that is what keeps a structure, a building, a house. Imagine your house, right? That foundation must be firm. The pillars in that house must be firm in order to ensure that we do not get rained upon, that the wind doesn't blow and our house collapses, that the ground doesn't shake and our house falls apart. What the left side of the spectrum is trying to do today is undermine our values,
Mhm.
undermine our freedoms, undermine our education, our religious the convictions, and what it takes to build the character. They want to bring in race and all these other things, and that's not what it's about. This is America. You can be whatever you want to be. So when we think about security, we think about unfortunate incidents like Uvalde or many others around the country. We say, why? Why? And then we want to bring in gun control or we want to bring in more laws and legislation. That is not the answer. Character is the answer.
Mhm.
Family values is the answer. Religion, whatever flavor that is the answer. Because when you have that, that is where you're going to have security, stability, and a strong society. I want to ensure that our education system has that. Now, first and foremost, I support parent choice. Give parents the opportunity to send their kids to the school that best fits their child's needs. And I think that that is fair. At the same time, I can be a little bit of a critic because what's the turnaround time on seeing something positive come out of that? You have to understand, a lot of people don't realize this. One out of every 10 child in the United States of America comes out of the state of Texas. Think about that. That is our future. That is our
Yeah.
economy. Those are our lawyers, our plumbers, our engineers, our electricians. That is the defense of this country. If Texas does not hold the fort, this country will fail. And we have got to reinstall those values and that religion and that sense of character back into our system. So giving parents choice on where to send their kids, that's great. But how many generations are going to be failed because it took that long to get let the free market balance
Yeah.
out the system? So what
Hmm.
I would say is, because I taught for the Department of Defense, right? There's a program of instruction for every hour of every day and at every level of education. If we had that sort of format, if we had a program of instruction that was only the core topics and what makes children successful, young people, the next generation successful in their endeavors, we could eliminate the critical race theory, the gender ideology, the all the garbage and all the nonsense. But none of this is made possible if we do not have order and discipline and respect in our classrooms. And that is something that needs to be reinstilled in our character because we are going to fail as a society if we don't have the strength, backbone, and tenacity to ensure that we are bringing up a generation that has respect for their figures of authority, their instructors, their teachers, because teachers spend so much time in the classroom corralling the cats or dealing
Yeah.
with problems and behavioral issues. And the left, they say, oh, well, we need to bring in high paid specialists to talk to them. No, you don't. No, you need to put down your foot and have order and discipline in that classroom and focus on the core topics so that students are successful.
Absolutely, and I think we're seeing every day the shortage of teachers. They don't want to be teachers anymore because
No.
The kids, you're seeing that they get away with everything. They don't have to respect them. I mean, it's like the teachers now are afraid of the students, and instead of being the other way around. But we're seeing this, and to me, this is very important when you're saying I'm coming from a conservative family, conservative values, and I'm coming from the same one. I'm seeing this, and I think the biggest failure is not only this the education, the school system, but the parents today. It comes from home.
It
It
really, really
comes from
does.
home. If you're allowing your kids to do whatever they want, if you're not talking to your kids the way you should talk to them, if you let them run over you and not respect you, and you're just asking them what do they want, and instead of telling them what they need to do, and I think it's a domino effect and goes to society, goes to the classroom, goes to everything in life. Don't you
And
think?
that's one of the reasons why you see parents more and more they are homeschooling their kids. They're
Yeah,
taking out of the public school system. Now that doesn't necessarily solve everything that you just mentioned, right? Because there's still a lot of parents out there that maybe have not had that upbringing or had the proper training on how to raise a kid. You know, when I was growing up in that homeschooled environment, we were taught to raise kids. Uh, excuse me. If when an adult left the room, there was an immediate pecking order. And if you didn't know already, everyone was going down to the minute of when you were born, because the oldest was the boss. The oldest
of
was
course.
the new adult, and the oldest could get in trouble if something went wrong, right? So it's that sense of responsibility and respect. And when you put that and you instill that in a child at a young age, they're going to be far more successful in life.
Yeah, I mean, look at what we're seeing these every day. Teenagers killing, stealing, and teenagers in jail. I don't remember seeing this before. So we're
Right.
having a big issues with the young generation. And I don't know how, I mean, one person can solve this, but I wanted you to talk about what it would be. I mean, your elections is going to be next year.
Yes,
Let's
ma'am.
clarify that. It's not going to be this November. So you have a little bit more than a year to prepare for this. Once you get, um, of course, that we wish for you to win the election. What would
Thank
be
you.
the first thing that you're going to start working on it, and what is going to be the strategy for you?
There's so much to work on. Where do we start? Oh my. You know, education and looking at how we can improve our education system. That is definitely a top priority. And I want to come back to that. One of the things, though, that is hurting Americans right now, and particularly Texans, are taxes. The tax rate that we have for our homes, the tax rate that is on businesses, and we have got to lower our property taxes. And I am happy that the House and the Senate, the governor signed the bill. We're going to see these 14 amendments on our ballot this November, that will give us a tax break. But don't get it twisted. Somebody, typical politicians, okay, somebody did Common Core math up there. There is no tax break. Taxes are not being lowered. What is happening is they're taking our budget surplus and they're using that to pay our taxes for us. Now, how much sense does that make? When that money should be going towards our infrastructure, expanding our roads, our highways, hardening our electrical grid, building small modular reactors around the state so that we can have sustainable energy to to compensate for not only our growth but also for extreme weather temperatures, be it the summer or the winter. So there is so much to do to focus on not only the infrastructure, but we have got to help families out here in Texas. Now, the west side of San Antonio, excuse me, is the one of the newer sides of San Antonio. It's blown up over the last 20 years. At one time, 20 years ago, it was just fields, and now it is just subdivisions of all economic levels, but mid to high end, right? Um, and now the infrastructure is starting to come in with strip malls and restaurants and all that. But the roads are narrow. It's a parking lot. You're taking your kids to school, or you're coming home from work and trying to get to your next adventure of the day. It's a parking lot on the west side. On a side note, get a load of this. On August the 4th, 1960, is when the construction on 1604 began. Now, my district is outside of the 1604 loop on the west side. 63 years. 63 years. Why does it take so long? We have more people, we have better technology, we can do so much more, and yet it takes forever to accomplish nothing. Again, one of those things is, that's why I'm running for office. But what else do we need to, what
It's
do we need to
frustrating. It's
focus on?
frustration. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, but I want to get school choice passed. I want to get school choice passed. If it doesn't come out of this special session, that's probably going to be in October of this year. We need to get school choice passed. It's a step in the right direction. And then we need to start looking at how we can give teachers and administration the teeth that they need to instill order and discipline in the classroom. And I have socialized some ideas. There's behavior for truancy. There's a ticket. There's not behavior for truancy, but there's penalties. Right? There's penalties for things. Maybe we need to bring in penalties. We have got to somehow bring order and discipline to the classroom and focus on the core topics. We are 40th in the nation. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
40th and falling. And,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's absolutely ridiculous. And of course, you look at it on a grand scale. Um, the United States, who has always been number one in the world in education, we're falling there as well. We're barely making the top 40, top 50. So there is a lot of improvement that needs to happen, and this ideology that's being forced upon our kids, that has got to go. Because when you're confusing a child like that and you're not keeping them focused on what is important, um, they are going to become a psychological mess. And if you think that person is going to then suit up and join the military and defend our country at some point, no, that's not happening.
We're
So,
seeing it. We're seeing it already, and it's very sad. I have twins. They're 18 years old. They just graduate from high school, and they're very conservatives. One is going to Arkansas. I mean, she's already there in Arkansas. It's her first week, and my son is going on
congratulations.
Friday to Texas A&M. And they were telling me, "Mom, we're thank God that we're just graduated from high school because the way it's going, it doesn't look good at all."
Yeah.
So even them, they realize, even them. I mean, you met my son a week ago.
Yes, I did. Yes, I
You met
did.
my son. So even
Well
them, they're
spoken.
already seeing it. So
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how
Fixing our
it needs a
education
lot of
system
work.
from the ground up,
Yeah.
instilling that from the single digits of a child's age, but that has to transfer because, quite frankly, and I know that this is not going to apply to your kids because well, I only met your son and he's a very sharp fella. Um, so and that's kudos to you. You had a strong mother that raised him right.
Thank
So
you.
in the universities, though, there is this. They have become uh, uh, money. Money drives it. Okay, that's it,
Yeah.
and that's all they care about is money. And as a result, I have seen being in leadership positions, since my teenage years, I have seen so many people, but especially in the last 15, 20 years, that come out of the colleges, the universities, and they can't even put an email together. They
Yeah.
have no critical thinking skills. They have no problem solving skills. They have no analytical skills, right? Why? Because we are off, you know, talking about things that are of no importance and giving this illusion that somehow our children are a victim of their circumstances. They are a victim of their skin color. That is not
I know.
America. And that is
I know.
certainly not Texas. And that is one thing that I want to focus on here in the state of Texas, because Texans and those in my district and throughout San Antonio, they deserve a quality education for their children. They deserve to be able to come out of a trade school. We don't always have to go to a university. There is a shortage. The Texas Public Policy Foundation has very good data on where we will be lacking in the next 10 years. And one of those are in the trades, those electricians, plumbers, people that are working construction, whatever the case may be. Um, and we are not putting that character, we are not putting that drive in our kids. We're putting an iPad in their hands
Mm-hmm.
when they're young. We're putting, we remember when Blackberries first came out, and we
Yeah.
called them crackberries because
Mm-hmm.
everyone was always on that. Yeah. Okay. So, well, now
Now
it's
it's even
worse.
worse. They have access to
That's right.
technology. You see, I mean, yesterday I was having dinner with friends, and it was a year, 18 months boy, and he was like with the phone, just
Yeah.
you know, they know how to
Yeah.
use the technology better than us.
And you know what they're not learning? They're not learning how to interact with each other,
No,
learning how
no.
to stand up for their morals and values.
Hmm.
They're not learning
They
how
don't talk it. They
to
don't talk anymore.
address. They don't. They don't. And parents are allowing this to happen. And there's a lot of pushback or supporting um, ideas that we should take a majority of the technology out of school, especially in your elementary and maybe middle school. Obviously, by the time they get to high school, they need to learn how to use a computer and the Microsoft suite of products, and
Yeah,
maybe get
that's a
into
very
computer
debatable
programming.
topic, because we live in the technology era these days. And if we take
Yeah.
technology from these kids, they're probably going to be in disadvantage when they graduate. So it's a very, it's a very
At the
delicate issue
younger
that,
age, though, if they're not learning how to do that on paper, if they're
yeah,
not learning
and
how to
absolutely, yeah.
solve, because tell me what happens when a hurricane comes through. Tell me what happens when, God forbid, a tornado comes through. Tell me what happens when, unfortunately, we go to war with China and they put an EMP, they blast an EMP or a nuclear device. Our electricity is gone.
Hmm.
And if you don't know how to read a map, if you don't know how to make a phone call, if you don't know how to use some of the traditional tools that we have already had, you're lost in the sauce. And
Absolutely.
we need to bring back those foundations of education. And I'm not saying we get rid of technology, but just ensure that we are focused, especially in the early years, on how do you solve problems without technology.
Absolutely. So, okay, now give us the call to action to your campaign that pretty much we're like a year away from elections next year.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm going to continue to be working. I need volunteers. I need help on my campaign. I need donations. It takes money to run for office, a tremendous amount, in fact. Um, so you can go to mostynfor.com, and there is a donate tab there, and that is where you can donate and as often as you can. Share it with your friends and family, and help me raise money so that we can turn this seat and keep Texas Texas. But I also need volunteers. I need help, people that will call, that can block walk, that can do all the different things that are part of a campaign. I need help with that. So I'd love to have y'all on board. I need y'all on board. And if you want a common sense problem solver, level headed, straightforward, honest person in office, then you want Ben Mostyn. And so I need your help to get there. And in on starting on February 20th, all the way up to March the 5th. February 20th is the beginning of the early voting for the primary election. At this time, I do not have a primary challenger, thank God. Um, and but still I'll need to get those primary votes. So between starting on February 20th of next year, make sure you go out and vote for Ben Mostyn. And then later in the year, October 21st begins early voting. And please vote early. Okay, don't wait until the last minute. Don't wait until it's just like going shopping or doing anything else. You can't wait till the last minute because maybe it closes or maybe the Lord calls your ticket. I don't know. Get to the booth and vote. Right. So I need your help and support in so many ways, not only up to the election time, but especially when it comes time to vote.
And register to vote, because if you're not registered to vote, you cannot
That's
vote,
right.
not even the primaries and nowhere.
And if you need
Ben,
help, just reach out.
yes,
Yes, ma'am.
everything that you were saying about volunteers, donation, fundraising, everything, that's something that you learn also, or reaffirm of what you were learning in a leadership Latino class that we had the past August 4th and 5th. So I want you give us your feedback on the class. What do you already knew, but what do you learn, and now you're gonna apply to your campaign?
That was an amazing class and a great opportunity. I encourage all candidates, especially those that are new, that are coming into things or thinking about running or going to support a campaign, go to the Leadership Latino course and get an idea of what is required in a campaign. I am fortunate, having spent a lot of my life in sales and as a management consultant and problem solving. So I was familiar with the basic principle. There's tools, though, that are going to be unique to politics. And so that class it sheds light on those aspects that you might not think of when it comes to running for office. How you file your paperwork, what it is necessary to make sure that you stay out of trouble with the law, that you're doing everything according to the guidelines, uh, and but also learning how to talk. Not
Mhm.
everyone has been out there in front of other people or selling stuff or representing something. And so this is a great opportunity to not only see yourself and how you look, how you sound, but to identify those areas that you're going to need to improve upon in order to get your message out to the voters, as well as get support. Right, all those people that are going to volunteer on your campaign or donate money, you need their support as well. And the Leadership Latino conference and training that is sponsored there here with Texas Latino Conservatives is an amazing avenue. And I thank you all for very much for assisting me in my endeavors.
I love it. And at the beginning of the program, before we came on the air, I told you, like, if you learn something in the media training, because you stage your Zoom or your intervention very well, like with your logo, the books, it looks perfect, because
Thank you.
everything that you do, not only your message, how you deliver your message, the dress, the body language, but also your background, you're selling yourself in every single detail.
Yes, ma'am. And this, and for anyone that's considering running for office, people have to have confidence in you. And I want my voters, I want the people of Texas to have confidence in me to get the job done. Normally I might have bare walls. In fact, you know, it's not a high priority for me, right? Because I'm working. And that's the kind of person, on a side note, that's the kind of person you would be voting for here on the west side of San Antonio. Someone that is working for you, someone that doesn't even take time to hang up awards and pictures and diplomas and all this stuff that is, accomplishments or something to make the room look pretty. So this was the best I did. I just put the logo up on the television, and of course, I got a lot of books, and so that's how I staged for this. But on a serious note, Texas, you have someone that will show up to work, that will get the job done, that will fight for you, fight for our shared values of faith, family, freedom, and character. And so I need you on my side. I want to install that confidence in you. And if for some reason you have a question or you have a doubt or you need to bend my ear about anything, you reach out. Reach out to me. Go to mostynfortexas.com, email me, ask me a question, tell me what you need, and let me solve for you. Let me help you achieve your goals and the goals are that we have here in the state of Texas.
Great. Well, Ben Mostyn, candidate for Texas House of Representative, District 117, thank you so much. And we're going to bring you back to that program next year to promote your campaign, to talk
Awesome.
about how you've been doing all of these months and, how we can help you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please share, follow me on social media. I have Facebook. If you facebook.com/vote Ben Mostyn. You can find me on Twitter, Ben Mostyn, Texas, and on Instagram, Mostyn for Texas. Go to mostynfortexas.com, donate, volunteer, support, share with your friends, family, and network, and let's keep Texas, Texas.
Let's keep Texas, Texas, and conservative.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Ben. See you
God
soon.
bless. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Well, we just hear Ben talking about Leadership Latino. Our next class is going to be in January at the end of the month. So stay tuned with our webpage, TexasLatinoConservatives.com, TexasLatinoConservatives.com. You're going to find also the link to Leadership Latino. Just, stay tuned not only with Leadership Latino, but other events that we always promoting in our webpage. And as Ben said, we need donations to keep our programs alive, our cause alive, and to keep helping you to run for office, to be a leader in Texas, and to keep Texas conservatives. So also go to TexasLatinoConservatives.com and give your donation. Any donation, it's welcome. $5, $10, $20, become a member. Just anything that you can donate and you can help us to help, that will be very welcome for us. Well, muchísimas gracias por habernos acompañado y nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Chao, chao.